Hello?
We got you, dude. We got you.
What's up? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right.
We'll be starting in a couple minutes, guys.
Sounds good.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. All right.
Hey, Theo.
Caesar,
Hi.
how's it going?
Hello, boys and girls.
How you doing?
Hi, Pablo. Doing great. How about you?
I picked the Golden Gate just for you, Caesar.
Oh, sweet. You miss California, don't you?
I do actually.
Hi, guys.
Hi,
up?
Lilita. I hear your voice. Hey, Nico. How are you?
Hey, Theo. How you doing?
Doing great.
Micah, what's up, Micah?
Hi, Nico.
Hey, everybody.
Micah, long time no see, man.
I know, I haven't seen you in forever.
I miss you, dude.
Wow, Micah. Good to see
Hi,
you.
Lily.
Hi.
Very distinguished mustache, Micah.
I know.
Thank you, sir.
So
I don't know why
handsome.
it's on my face. It's maybe a leftover from all this quarantine.
It's a keeper.
It's a keeper.
I like it.
See, turn this up.
All right, guys. Well,
Hi,
I'm gonna
Pablito. This is exciting.
yes, I'm super excited. We're gonna get started because I just want to get in the habit of starting right at the, right on time.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna get going, but just a couple of minutes just to to greet you guys. It's nice to see you all, and if you guys feel comfortable, turn on your cameras. It's we'll be watching a presentation anyways, but it's nice just to see somewhat of connection if you guys can. And just welcome to everybody. I may not know everyone here, but if you're here, somebody cares about you, somebody loves you, and we want to kind of grow together in this. That's something that's been very important to us. But before we get started, I wanted to just kind of go over some business, some ground rules of how we're going to be doing these meetings and how they'll work. So we'll meet every week. It's going to be 8 weeks. You don't need to join every week, but if you want to, it's 1 hour a week. We're going to meet on Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll let you know if there's any cancellations or if we're going to move 1 week out for whatever reason, if I'm out of town or something like that. And what are we going to do in these 8 weeks? We're going to go over like investing principles, a lot of just foundational level. So I received a lot of your forms, and some of you are like real big time investors, right? So maybe the first couple of weeks going to be kind of basic for you all, but we have a diverse group here. We're just going to kind of cover a lot of the basics. And actually, if you have a lot of expertise in an area, I would also encourage you guys to put it in the chat, put some comments in, and give your own opinions on things. The purpose of this is really for us to learn from each other, and there's nothing being sold or anything like that. It's just about learning the principles to being a good investor and stewards with your capital. If you have any questions or you want to chime in, we ask that you put it in the chat. And when we're doing our session, we're going to be a little bit muted. Maybe we'll put a few minutes in the beginning to talk a little bit, but for the most part, just write it out, and we'll figure it out from there. We'll have some time for questions, but you know, there's Buitragos in here, there's Velez in here. I mean, this will turn into a vigil real quick if we just have a conversation. We'll be here till midnight, guys. So, you know, if you have great insights, you have a question or something, put it in the chat. We will definitely be monitoring that. Actually, Nico, right there in the top center on my screen, Nico is going to be moderating. He's helping out. He also works with me. So thank you, Nico, for coordinating. And we put a lot of this content together. So if you put stuff in the chat, you know, he can field those questions. Feel free to put on your camera. Don't put on your camera, no pressure. Whatever you guys want. I just ask that you mute your mic, but even if you don't, I'm pretty sure Nico will. So, you know, just so we can, you know, we can get through it. And then the last thing I would say is, you know, grab a notepad. We'll be saving a lot of the content, but, you know, I encourage you guys to get a notepad or something on the computer, since you're probably on a computer, and that way you can keep notes and kind of your observations. The class is very actionable, so it's not just going to be a theory thing and everything. We're gonna give out some homework, some action steps, and we're gonna do different things together as a group. And yeah, and so, you know, let's jump into. I'm gonna share here my screen, and I'll talk a little bit about what is this GROW program. 1 second. So Nico, you got to give me the ability to share here.
You should be able to.
Okay. All right. I think I can. Okay. Turn on my laptop. All right. I think we're all good. Can you guys see my screen?
We got it, Pablo.
Agenda?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. I don't want to be like sharing my my crypto stuff. So okay. So what's the GROW program about? You know, really the objective here is to learn from each other. You know, teach these foundations, like I said. I want to reiterate, there's no selling, there's no, you know, there's no program that you have to do at the end of this. We're not going to ask you for money, a donation, and none of that. This is just knowledge that we can share with each other. And it is going to be about investing and teaching a lot of these principles that, you know, I've learned over the years and I've been putting into practice. I'm not an expert in all of these areas. We are going to be bringing in experts in a lot of the different areas. So the 3 primary areas that we'll be focusing on is real estate, stocks and investing, and all kinds of those kind of financial instruments, even crypto. And then the third one will be business. And coincidentally, those are the 3 best ways to build wealth. If you know anybody that's wealthy, and I mean like really wealthy, they probably did it with one of those 3 ways. I guess there's like the lottery or something, but more likely than not, I think there's statistics that even people that win it with the lottery, because they don't have the foundation principles, they end up losing the money. They don't know what to do with money. So what we want to learn is really how do we handle finances? What can we do about it? And you know, what are the strategies for that? So this first lesson, we're going to get into. So the objectives of this lesson, which is, we're titling it The American Dream, is just getting the right mindset. And we're going to walk through what the American Dream is and how that kind of works out or doesn't work out. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about just what do you want and what's important to you, like your why. And that may seem a little odd in an investing or financial course, but we'll get into that, why that's important. And once we get there. So to kick things off, I also wanted to just, you know, as I mentioned earlier, Nico will be helping kind of field the questions and all of that. And I just wanted to give him a couple minutes to just introduce himself. And also, you know, we've been kind of working together, even in the investing side, for the last few months now, Nico, right? So just wanted to give you an opportunity to just, introduce yourself, and also, I mean, everybody knows you here, but yeah, you can tell us a little bit more
Yeah.
about what's been going on with you.
No, thanks, Pablo. Yeah, it's so good to see everyone. Like, we've been so excited to do this, and when Pablo came up with the idea of, obviously Grows his idea, but the idea of doing like a close fit friends and family first thing, and I think immediately I was just like, oh man, that's just a great idea to do that. So it's
Well, I gotta stop you, Nico.
okay.
It was not my idea, actually. I have to give credit to Evis for really motivating. Evis, I don't know if you're online somewhere, but Evis is a very innovative person. She's creative, just wonderful with ideas. And she encouraged me one day and said, you really like this stuff. You should really figure out a way to share that. And I've done several versions of it, Evis, and hopefully I'm getting better on it. But this is a subject I'm super passionate about. But it was not my original idea. So thank you, Evis.
Yes, it's awesome. So yeah, thank you, Evis, for that. Yeah, and I'm super excited because I know our family. I mean, I know our family, and I know just how amazing our family is, and like, I think our family is full of just really incredible people. So just the thought of like us, learning this stuff. And I know for me, my mom taught me a lot about money and everything. But a lot of this stuff I hadn't been taught. And I think this past 6 months, learning a lot from Pablo, it has been very, very life-changing for me. And so it's become a new passion of mine, and I've like already begun to see some pretty amazing fruit from the things I've learned, so I feel like I'm learning all this with you guys, and I relate because I feel like 6 months ago I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and it's been like a pretty mind-blowing kind of a mindset change for me. So I really hope that you guys have that moment, throughout this program of like, oh wow, like this is possible. This isn't something that's far away. This is something that can become a reality for all of us. And I believe in our family that we can do some pretty amazing things in our communities and in our world even, so that's all. I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you, Nico. And I think actually you're gonna get us going with the icebreaker.
Oh yes, the icebreaker. Okay, so we wanted to know from all you guys, we have a question for you guys, and we want you to think about it, take a minute to think about it, and we'll have you guys put your answer in the comments. But here's the icebreaker question. If you guys had $50 million, what would you spend it on?
Or what would you do?
What would you do?
Yeah.
What would you do? That's what it is. What would you do with $50 million?
We were gonna make it 10, but I know some of you are fancy, so we had to up it. You're like 10
Yeah,
million.
that's 2 cars.
That's 6 months for Ivan.
All right, so you want us
Not
to
enough.
add it to the chat? Okay,
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
you can think about it for a minute. We'll give you a minute to think about it. But the basic question is, if money was not an object and you had essentially an endless amount of money, what would you do? If it's very personal and you don't want to share it, don't feel pressure to share it. But if you want to share it, put it in the chat. You can also write it for yourself. It's really more for yourself. But if you want to share, I know there's a lot of extroverts in here. I'm sure you'll want to share.
Dun, dun,
I know, we
dun,
need the
dun,
Nico, we need the deputy
dun,
song
dun,
going.
dun, dun, dun.
We'll give it another 30 seconds here.
Oh, we got a bunch of humanitarians in here.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing it. Anna's already got the bag, she says. That's funny. All right, Nico, you want to read some of these?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Theo says that I will continue to do what I'm already doing.
Ooh,
Helping.
that is powerful, brother.
Yeah, man.
Powerful.
Wow. Helping family and people. My sister Jess, vacation, good answer. Property, invest, hold for future generations. Ivan, donate to less fortunate and help church ministries. Awesome. Travis, my boy, invest, learn, open a dog rescue on the side. We love dogs.
Yeah, man. Gotta love the animals.
Gotta love them. Sylvia, I want to open a free clinic and travel for medical missions within 10 to 15 years to my hometown in Ecuador. Amazing.
That's awesome.
Freddie, invest in real estate, crypto, travel, and donate. Man, you guys are just helping people.
This is awesome.
Definitely a combination of investment and donation from
Yep.
Winter. Travel to numerous countries, purchase several homes, donate to the church. Evie's amazing. Ivan, dang Anna, yeah. Beto, invest it, share it, enjoy it. Good answers, man. So many. Wow, there's so many.
So guys, thank you guys so much for sharing. And really the purpose of that question is it gives a little clue to what your why is. Like, why are we doing all of this, right? What are we doing this all for? And even taking this time right now is not easy. I get it. There's lots of stuff you could do. You probably worked all day. You probably had a rough day or a good day, who knows, right? But I really appreciate you guys taking some time to even join a class like this, right? Like, what are we even talking about here? But you know, it's important to carve out time to really think about, like, what do I actually want in life? What do I actually want to accomplish? And where it comes down to the practical level on the investment side, to do any of these amazing things that you're talking about, you're going to need a lot of things, but you're especially going to need two things. You're going to need time to do that, and you're going to need resources to fund it, right? You're going to need those two things, either to fund your projects or to fund you to free up your time. But either way, you're going to need it. So the real question of what we're going to get to right now is, and why we asked that question is, you know, how do we get there, right? How do we get there? So the bulk of the lesson we're going to do today, I wanted to just kind of visualize it a little bit. So let's think about life. This is an average lifespan. Some of you are going to live a lot longer, don't worry. But you know, the one thing we don't know is we don't know how many of these years we get. We just simply don't know that. And it's kind of broken out in a very interesting way. So I'm going to put here this first part of life, probably up to about right here. You spend most of that time learning and in education, right? This first portion of your life. And then I'm going to go to this red one here. Somewhere around here, there's a little bit of an overlap because some of us start working a little bit earlier. We go up to here. What do you guys think that box is for? Working. You're going to spend from about, some of you from 15, 17, 16, 18 to about 65 working. And then on the tail end over here, I'm going to put a little bit overlap. This is when you're supposed to retire and you're supposed to be free to do a lot of the things that you guys wrote on this on the chat, right? Because the issue is there's a couple of traps here, right? So this is so you got education. I'm gonna forgive my writing. I don't write very often, so it's really bad. Work, and then I'm gonna put retire, or a better word that I like is freedom. So just take a look at this. Like, the majority of our lives, and we don't even know how long we're going to live. Some people live till 50, till 60, till 30, right? We have no idea of this timeline, but the system is really designed in this way. And I can prove it to you because, you know, when you try to go into that green box earlier, it's kind of discouraged, right? It's not really, it's kind of meant more for like that later age. And also when you want to, let's say you want to learn something, an education piece when you're 50 or 60, also kind of, you know, it's kind of more like for the earlier years. And then work, it's hard to get work if you're too much on the, you know, plus 65 or too young. Also, work doesn't really give you that opportunity. They want people right in this middle bucket, right? So life's kind of designed the way, this is kind of the American dream. So let's just follow this plan for a second. So you go to school and you graduate and you get, here's my little drawing of a degree. And I'm not against degrees. I know a lot of you know I didn't have a lot of schooling, but I'm definitely not against degrees. But I am against some of the things that they produce, which it could be a lot of debt. And so that's something that's a little tricky. But the average person, I'm gonna put it up here just so you guys can see it. This is student debt over time since 2003. And this is in the trillions, by the way. It's just, I don't know if you guys can see this, make it a little bit bigger.
No, we got it.
But it's just been a parabolic slope up.
Dang.
It's just growing, growing, growing. So what's happening with that, what this produces is you're going to school this first part of your life. And when you graduate, you also graduate with this bag of debt, okay? And when we're talking about investing, it's very difficult to grow wealth alongside debt. But you're starting off that way, off the bat. And then when you get into the workforce, your pay may be on the lower end. So you end up just kind of trickling and paying this debt off. And it could take quite some time, and it impacts your capability of kind of making investments or building your wealth during those prime years, right? I'm gonna open it up. I kind of like this chat thing. What other things what other things jump out of you guys when you see this? Does this trigger any emotions or any thoughts? Just want to hear what are some observations that you guys notice from this? I want to make this a little bit more interactive. We noted that you spend the majority of your life working. Yes, Jess, majority is spent working. So we talked a little bit about education, very, very important.
Good question, Micah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, Micah said, like, what if you die early?
What if you die early? Well, here's a trap there is all that stuff that you guys put in the chat that you want to do. When exactly are you going to do that? Have you ever thought about that? When are you going to open up that shelter? When are you going to be able to do the things that you want to do? When are you going to be able to do those things, right? So some of the other observations when I looked at this, pretty amazing, is I looked up some stats, guys, and apparently 78 to 80% of people don't even enjoy their work. Only 20% are pretty passionate about their work. So you're telling me that the majority of my life I'm going to give to work, and then 80, like out of 100 people, 80 don't even like their job. That's really sad. So that what that really means is you're probably living for the weekend, maybe a Saturday or Sunday. So you're getting one day out of the week, and the rest of the time you're kind of trading your time. You're doing an exchange for time for money, right? And you're in this loop. So there's two, I think Veronica, let me read some of these other comments because these are so good.
And Pablo, I think a big theme too, something I think about is like, it's just health, like our healthiest years are spent like, working, and that feels like, dang.
And I think we all want this green box, right? We all want to get to this green box. We want to be free. What's the problem with reaching it at this age? And I'm not trying to offend anybody because I'm getting there too. But what's the problem with reaching this age and then now having that freedom, if you even have the freedom when you get there? Most of the problem is that you're dealing with health issues. You don't have the same energy when you were younger. And so it's almost like life starts going at a real rapid pace, and you don't get to do the things that really excited you about what you wanted to do because you were trapped in this rat race, this over here. And the rat race is really defined. It's basically a trap for your time. So the rat race is designed to steal your time, okay? And I wanted to make a little point. There's two versions of the rat race, by the way. I'm gonna put in investing, anybody that's a true investor, can you guys tell me the two emotions that drive the markets? Every market, every investment market, there's only two emotions that drive it. Anybody know?
Fear and greed.
Yes, fear and greed. So these are the two emotions that drive the market sentiment. Okay, so there's a rat race and there's a trap, each one of these. On the fear side, it traps you from investing or to even start to think about getting yourself free. And it clings you to security and basically doesn't allow you to get out of that trap. So you work, you make money to pay your bills, you spend that money on your expenses, and you're pretty much like, I think it's 70% or more are paycheck to paycheck. That means if they were to lose their income, everything would just collapse, right? Things would go really bad if you were to lose your income when you're in the rat race. Most people are like, they can handle 2 paychecks, maybe 3 paychecks, and then things get really bad after that. Okay, so there's fear of investing or trying to get out of that because you need that security, right? On the greed side, so that's the first trap. And then also there's all kinds of stuff that go on there that we're going to get into in a second. Mindset, self-sabotage. We're going to touch a little bit on those things. The other trap on the top side, I realize I'm drawing and you can't see it. Let me move here. So that's here on this side. On the top side, there's another trap, and that's where you actually did achieve it. You achieved the goal of making a lot of money. You have all kinds of stuff. And for whatever reason, it's still, it's not enough. You're still putting in 12 to 14 hours a day. You still you don't have time for your family or for whatever the things that are important to you. A lot of the stuff that you guys wrote is very interesting that not a lot of people said they would want to work more. I didn't see that in the list. Like, I want to work a lot more. You know, I think there's famous quotes that say like, nobody in their deathbed wishes they put more hours in the office, right? It's just, that's not what we value as humans. We value connection, love, making an impact, and giving to others. At the end of the day, all of you have the really similar goals and similar heart. So I wanted to just point out that there's the two traps. There's one when you don't have it, and one when you do have it, and both of them steal your time, right? Even when you're successful and you have all the money and you think that you would do other things differently, you still go for it and you still want more and more and more. These emotions are extremely powerful. So I wanted to just kind of, talk a little bit about those kind of traps, and we're going to discuss how do you get out of this trap? How can we break this cycle, right? So there's a couple things that we're going to talk about.
And Pablo, really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, really quick. I think one good point you're making, but I almost want to emphasize it, is like, I think even this Grow program, it's easy to kind of think that this is just like the goal is to have, is about money, but I think even further than that is what we're talking about. It's like, I think the goal is for us to have time and freedom, like,
right.
And what are the things we need to do to actually create that space in our lives? So
absolutely. So yeah. I think by viewing this, the objective that we want to do, right, is I personally don't like this model. It doesn't excite me to know that this is what is designed and this is how, I can go on a huge rant on even the money part of this. In your later years, it's designed to take that money back. For those of you that have older folks, go look at how much it costs to put a parent in a nursing home or a hospice care. It's upwards of $12,000 to $15,000 a month. And if they have the money, they will take the money. And so your retirement and your 401k starts to deplete really quickly at the end. And, it's just, I'm not trying to say that I'm against work or anything like that. So I want to make some points real clear that it's about enjoying your life and being free to pursue those things that are important to you. That's what it's about. It's not about the income you make. It's about, are you free to pursue your purpose? Period. Are you free? Can you design your life? Can you sit here and design your life? I want to do this, I want to do that, and then actually do it. And then use resources to do it and get things to do it and do projects. It's not about sitting on a beach and drinking a margarita. Sure, I saw Vacation. You're going to do that, right? That's great. But your life, if you did that, after a while, you'll still feel a feeling of emptiness. And I'm going to show you, there's a beautiful concept called Ikigai. I'm going to bring it up here. Let me just grab this guy. Let's blow this guy up. All right. So let's check this out. So Ikigai is a meaning, a reason for being, and it's more about to work in something that you love. So you really want to be in this middle sweet spot, because as we showed, if the majority of your life you're going to be working, you might as well work in something that you love, and that's beautiful. But it would be good if you were good at it. It'd also be good if you could be paid for it and what the world needs, or I would even change that as meaningful to you, right? It doesn't always have to be this, the world needs this, right? But it's interesting, kind of study this picture and you'll see that if you only have a couple of them, like if you love something and it's the world needs, but it doesn't pay and you're not good at it, you'll be delighted and full, but you'll be broke. Yeah, you're going to be struggling, right? If you love it and you're good at it, you have a feeling of uselessness. Why? Because it's not something meaningful to you. Additionally, you're not really getting paid that much for it. And so you can kind of see how this works. What if you're good at it and you can get paid a lot? You're a professional lawyer, but you actually don't really like it, but you know you get paid a lot. You probably feel comfortable, but a feeling of emptiness, right? And then the other side, if it's something that's meaningful and you can get paid for, you're excited and complacent, but a sense of uncertainty. Why? It's not something you love or you're good at, right? So the idea is find something that is in the middle here, and that's meaningful work. A lot of times, depending on your age, you may need to try a lot of different things. You don't need to just do the job that somebody told you or get into some career because it pays a lot. It would make some sense to spend some time thinking about this. And I'll share this with you guys so you guys can kind of take a look at that. But I think the objective is that that work portion, that big chunk of life, should be something that means something to you. And if you are currently working in a situation where it's taking energy out of you, it's depleting you, you may want to ask yourself like why you're doing that. You know what I mean? And why you're putting yourself through that. It doesn't mean you're going to quit your job and all that. This is after all, this is investing in financial course. So we want to show you a better way to operate, and we'll get to that. Let's talk about some of the things that stop people from pursuing freedom and from pursuing like a different way of being, right? Freeing themselves from this rat race. So I looked it up, and apparently I was kind of shocked by this, but maybe you guys won't be. But apparently one of the most popular reasons is it's literally ourselves stopping ourselves. So it's self-sabotage. I'll make this a little bit bigger. Self-criticism, I'm not going to read all of these, but self-criticism, negativity, everything is woe is me, things are bad, procrastination, disorganization, imposter syndrome, which is where you don't feel you belong. You don't feel like you are worthy of some position or some role, right? Overindulgence, initiating conflicts, being out of focus, just constantly moving from one thing to another, never growing a root. Comparing yourself constantly to others, or questioning your purpose over and over. So all of these are self-sabotaging behaviors that will prevent you from moving forward. They will stop you dead in your tracks. The craziest thing is that they're actually self-sabotaging. So you are causing this own, I don't know if, can everyone see this? I think I've got in a comment that's too small, but we'll send all these things out. But it's just powerful to think about the fact that everybody wants to be successful and you want to have that freedom, but it's a lot of this mindset stuff that's actually preventing you and that's stopping that. So
Yeah,
I wanted to, yeah.
Sorry, can I talk about this for a second?
Yes.
Okay, so guys, for me, this was like one of the really big moments for me was really coming to face with a lot of these things. And I think it's a really important first step of this whole thing is really looking in the mirror and getting real with yourself on how you speak to yourself, how you view yourself, like the self-criticism, the comparison, like, I mean, it was very impactful. I mean, talking to Pablo, it was like, oh my gosh, man, like I stop myself all the time from progressing, from receiving, from learning. And I'm like, this is literally a choice I can just make. And I'm like, why do I keep myself in the same cycles, you know? And so I think he's kind of glancing over it, but this is a huge, huge, huge step in this. It is like, can you be honest with yourself and find those things? And it's not to judge yourself. Like, that's actually the problem, is that we like judge ourselves and we say we can't, but to really look at yourself with grace and be like, okay, I procrastinate a lot. I always kick the can down the road. I always say I'll do it tomorrow. And it's like, that's a thing to look at, and you can make a change about. So that's it.
And thank you for sharing that, Nico. And it's really a difficult thing. For me personally, I would say it was pure fear. I was very fearful because of the way I grew up. You know, I know my older siblings were well off, and you know, my parents had more money, but you know, I grew up very poor. I didn't really have a place. You know, I stayed in a lot of different homes. You know, at my siblings' homes, lived in a mobile home, and my parents gave me a lot of love, but we didn't have a lot of resources. And so I was very clung to security. I wanted security, and security is a paycheck. And I wanted to climb that education ladder. Well, in a different way. I didn't go to high school or college, but I love learning. And we'll get into what role that plays a little bit later, because that is one of the ways you can really just kind of learn your way out of a situation. But the mindset is huge, and overcoming that took a lot. It took a lot from Anita to help me see that, which she's free from a lot of those things, and working together with other people around you to get the right mindset. But you know, I've had it in me, and there was a fear that was preventing me, and it was an irrational fear. And fear is usually irrational. So there's a lot of talks. I mean, I can go off on fear, but you know, you got to look at what are the behaviors that are stopping you, like Nico was mentioning, and really have a conversation with yourself. Spend some time figuring out, what am I doing that's self-sabotaging? Why haven't I done these things that I want to do? Why haven't I done them really? When I really strip everything down, what's stopping me exactly? Is it an excuse? I mean, for my excuse was, well, I was making a lot of money in my career, and if I stop that, how will I pay my bills? Pretty logical, right? Pretty logical question. Like, I'm my primary breadwinner. I can't just do that. I can't just drop that income. That's irrational, and that would mess with my security, which is very big for me personally. So it is a little bit of a leap of faith and understanding certain things. But then I started realizing that there are principles I can use that can really change this whole ball game. And we started going in that direction, and I'm going to kind of turn the tide. But before I go into that, I just wanted to show this picture here, which I'm sure you guys probably already read, but it's really changing your mindset from, you know, a Mexican to a Mexican. It's changing your mindset from like a limited, you know, I can't do this. You're seeing the darks, you know, the bad side. I mean, I gave this example. I think, I don't know who I was talking to. Maybe you, Lily, we were having a conversation, but imagine you wake up in the morning and it's raining, right? It's a rainy day. And from one person's perspective, it's a terrible day. It's raining again. What a gloomy day, no sun. Gosh, it's always like this. Dang it, I don't even, it's, you know, now my car is wet, you know, and you're just complaining. And that day, so that's one perspective. And then another person's waking up and going, wow, it's raining. This is awesome. Like, the grass is going to be super green. You know what? Before I'm going to wake up early and grab a book and go sit in my sunroom and listen to the raindrops. And it's like therapeutic. And I'm going to get myself like a coffee or a tea and put on some like ocean sounds and just like have a moment, you know? I'm going to have a moment with this rain, and it's going to be therapeutic. So think about what's going on right here. the situation around you is identical for both people. But because of the mindset of one, it's miserable, completely miserable. And what's happening on another level, he's actually repelling anything good as well. So anything good that could come to him, he's repelling it. And anything good that's happening around him, he can't see it. The other person, their eyes are open and they're viewing everything with a different lens. And so life's open, it's full of opportunities, and you can really move forward, okay? Additionally, when you are in that mindset, I don't know if you guys have ever been car shopping or, you know, let's say you were looking for a car. Did you see the car everywhere? I mean, now you go to the road, you're like, no, there it is again, there's a car. You start noticing everywhere, right? The cars were always there, guys. It's just you're in tune to that now, so you're aware of it. And when you're aware of, you're being grateful and you have I can do attitude and you're like, yes, I can do this, I'm ready for it. All this mindset stuff, you see things everywhere that are happening good and they start coming to you left and right. And on the flip side, and I'm talking about, I understand there's different challenges for us here. So I get that it's very difficult. If you're in a funk, if you're feeling a certain way, I get it. I think we've all been there. I think what we're saying is this is going to be a big deal. If you're going to move into the investing, it's going to challenge you in ways that you got to get your mindset right. So I would highly recommend to invest time in learning about this, maybe get some therapy, talk to people, read books on it. There's a lot of stuff on just getting your mindset right. And a lot of this is what is going to, help you on this, getting out of this rat race.
Yeah, Paul, and I'll call with just a couple comments on it because it's so good. Even just practically something. I think we even talked about Pablo. I mean, obviously I learned a lot from Pablo, but I think practically, like I wake up in the mornings and even speak some of these things verbally,
Yes.
and it sounds cheesy, guys, but it actually has an effect on my day. When I say, like, when I get up and I'm like, I'm super grateful to be alive. I'm super grateful that I have this opportunity. And you know what, Nico, you're going to kill it today. Like, whatever. I'm like, I just say it and it's like, wow. Like, and then I start work and I like genuinely feel in a better mindset than like, oh, like a lot of those things on the left side were things I thought all the time. Like, I always separated myself from like, oh, well, he's the guy that is successful. And I'm like the guy that's like, I make it happen. I procrastinate, or whatever. It's like, it's them that have it. It's like always them like pushing it away from me. And then just to even just say, no, like the goods are mine, whatever. It's like, it does change things. So.
Thank you, Nico. That's an excellent point. And we're going to get to, so if this is the rat race and we all want to get out of the rat race, right? I don't think anybody wants to necessarily be in the rat race. I saw a comment, I want to address it. What if you love your job? That's amazing. If you're in the middle of that ikigai concept and you're spending the majority of your life in something that you love, that is amazing, right? That's what we want. So this is not like anti-work. I work all the time, but there is a difference now. I have a sense of, actually this class itself is fulfilling a purpose for me, right? This is something that I've wanted to do for a very long time, and I am working in things that I love and that I enjoy. I think I'm gonna always work because I enjoy working personally. That's the difference, that the very question that you said, what if you love your job, then you're in the right spot, right? What we're saying here is, don't spend the majority of your life in something you don't like. And are you able to achieve the purposes and the goals that you have set out or your purpose, right? So I'm looking at the time, so I want to go into some of the more practical investing things. So one of the things that we put on the flyer in the email was, how do you get out of the rat race, right? That was like a teaser. Well, there's a very simple formula for those of you that love math. There's an extremely simple formula for getting out of the rat race. I'm going to share it with you guys right now. So it is when, I'm going to write it right here, when your investments are greater than your expenses. All right, let's break this down for a second.
Boom.
When your cash flow investments, so I'm not talking about a 401k, I'm not talking about a crypto that you bought low and you're hoping that it moons. I'm talking about every month, what money is coming in to your pocket from investments. Let's define this a little further. You can't work for it. You cannot exchange your time for it. And when we're talking about passive investments, it's kind of like a curve like this. There is always work upfront when you're going to do a passive investment. If you're going to buy a property, if you're going to buy a business, there's work. So passive, let's keep that in context. It does not mean you're not doing anything, right? You're going to have to do something at some point. But at some point, it starts to go in auto mode, and your involvement. So here's a lot of time, and then the time involvement, over time. So if this is a time right here, and this is, your cash, over time, your involvement, actually, this is your involvement. Sorry.
Pablo, you need to move it into the frame. It's in the corner.
Ari, thank you. Okay, there you go. So this is your involvement in it. It's going to go down over time. And eventually this will keep going, and you'll have a little bit of bursts of time and effort. I gotta go check on this. If it's a property, you go check it, if something broke or something. But in general, it doesn't steal all of your time, okay? A passive investment. So that's what I'm talking about here in this formula. I'm talking about, this could be dividend stocks. This could be, there's, in the 3 ways that we identified, which were business, real estate, stocks, and those kind of instruments, all 3 of them have passive instruments in them, okay? So when you have those things going, they produce money every month for you. And what's powerful about that is that money that you make, you can put it back to produce even more. And it's a simple concept, but it's Warren Buffett called it the 8th wonder of the world. It's called compounding interest. So when you have something that's producing money and you get that money and put it back into it again, guess what happens? It grows. And then that bigger pile makes more money. And then you grab that money, you put it back in again. And guess what that happens? It grows again. And so all you need is time. If you just do that over time, it will start to compound and grow and start to return. So that being said, I want to, I think that we're, so this investments over expenses, this is investments from that doesn't tie up your time. Your expenses, I will ask you, we're going to do a little exercise in this. Think of 2 versions of your expenses. I'm going to go back here. So there's 2 versions of your expenses. One is your current monthly expenses, and one is how you want to be, how you want to live, right? So maybe your current expenses are like $2,000, $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, but how you want to be is $20,000, $30,000. I'm talking monthly, okay? So I know some of y'all fancy over there. You need a lot of money a month, right? You want to travel, you want to build stuff. You're going to need quite a bit of money. So what I'm saying is the real path to freedom here is understanding that formula and working on it. So one of the exercises that we're going to do next, I'm going to flip it, Nico, because I think it just makes more sense this way. But one of the exercises next is write out, and this is just for you. You don't have to share this. Just write it out like this. I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can see it a little bit better. Okay. So on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, you're going to write your monthly expenses. And it doesn't need to be exact right now. It's just for you to know. Have a figure in mind, and then do 2 versions of it, like your current, and then maybe like your future, to power some of the stuff that you guys mentioned in the chat. And then on the left-hand side, what amount of money is coming in right now? Right now, what amount of money is coming in automatically from your investments? And if it's 0, guys, put 0. It's okay. If you have no investments, just put a 0. But what I would say is put this on a notepad, put it on a sticky note. This is the metric. And I think we've been sold a lie where the metric is Hey, how much do you make an hour? Hey, what's your yearly salary? Hey, how much how much did your crypto go up today? Oh, how much this and that? That doesn't matter. The only one that matters is this one, because this one frees up your time. If you let's just play this out for a second. Let's say your expenses were $5,000 a month, okay? And you make $0 a month. Can you quit your job? No. You will never be able to quit your job as long as this is zero. You always need to have money coming in. Even if, or you can wait till you can play out the American dream and wait till your retirement, right? And hope that that can cover your expenses. But I'm telling you, you'll eat through that money, right? So yes, I see the question. 401k is a retirement account for those that don't know, but it becomes active in this box, okay? So yes, that's good. I'm not against 401k. I encourage it. It's another form of investment, but just realize that that's that model that you'll be able to enjoy, or you'll be able to be taken care of later in your life. I'm talking about, what about now, right? And I know there's people at every age right now. I don't think we need to be limited by these boxes. I'm talking about right now, what can we do to get that kind of freedom? But you need to know where you stand now. So it's like if you're joining a weight loss program, the first thing you're going to do at any gym, they're going to weigh you, they're going to measure you, and they're going to see where you're at. This is the only metric you really need to be worried about. And let's think about this for a second. For those of you that are a little bit older, if you could go back to your teens and 20s, knowing this metric, and imagine you just focused on increasing that metric. Just take a wild thought, how would your life be different? Anybody put in the chat? Do you think it would be pretty dramatically different if from a young age you were like, I need to plant some seeds in here, and these guys are going to grow over time and just continuously produce, right? We're going to get into other classes on why that works, but for today, I just want you to understand this is the one thing you're measuring against. And the fascinating part to me is it doesn't matter how much you make, because on this top part here, many people make 100, 150, 200,000, $300,000 in real estate and this and that, and deals, but they still don't have zero here. So which means they have to keep doing it over and over and over. So yes, I see that example, Jess. A property would definitely count here. If you have a rental property, that amount would count here. So you want something here. Let's say you bought a stock that gives dividend, Apple, Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, okay? You bought some stock and you only have like, Pablo, I don't have a lot of money to invest, man. I only have like $100 left over every month. Okay, grab the $100 and buy Coca-Cola stock. All right, you're gonna get a dividend, and I'll explain what that is in a second, but just by holding the stock, a company will return, not every company, but the companies that give dividends will return you a piece of their earnings per share, which is called a dividend, every 3 months or every quarter. And let's say you bought a couple of shares, it may be like $1 or $2 that you get, right? Like when you split it up over 3 months, you may get $2. You know what I want you to do? I want you to come to this little chart here and put like 2. You know what I mean? Like, this is progress. I now have $2 coming in every month without me doing anything. I have moved the needle, right? I've moved the deal. And if next month it's 4, then you're up 100% on this chart. You know what I mean? So this is not something that is extremely difficult, guys, or that is super complicated or anything. And pretty much the rest of the lessons are going to be about how to produce this kind of result. Because I'm telling you, let's play out the other scenario. If this was $7,500 a month and your monthly expenses are $5,000, why do you need your job? Especially if you don't like it. You could keep it, but you don't need it. And that's a very different position to be in. You're doing things because you want to now, not because you have to, okay? And it also frees up your mind to say, I always wanted to travel to that place. I think I'm gonna do it. I always wanted to do this little thing to help these people. I think I'm gonna work on that. And that extra 2,500, by the way, put it back in the pile that's producing you the 7,500. And in a few years, that's going to be 9,000. And in a few years, it'll be 14,000. And in a few years, it'll be 20,000 coming in. You can maybe up your expenses, right, to 7,500, to 10,000, keeping, so you're going up. But that's not what we do right now, right? We make money and our expenses and our salary goes up. For whatever reason or not, as human beings, our expenses also match it. So it doesn't matter if you're making $1 million, 100,000, 50,000, 20,000, your expenses will match your income level. And I would challenge you guys to start thinking about that a little differently and say, it's not about how much I make, it's about how much money makes. And who do you rather have working in this box, right? So I would say, let's do, because we're running out of time here, but I want to show you a different version of that dream that is completely possible. Okay, same concept here. I'm going to scroll down here.
This is so good, Pablo. So good.
Thanks, Nico. All right, let's zoom in here. All right, education. I'm going to write education right here. Education. They normally limit it for the first part of your 25 years, right? Go to high school, and you get your degree. I'm going to tell you, this is never going to end. All the way through. The normal curve on education, it's up. If you go, you can look at the stats. People learn, and then somewhere in their 20s and 30s, it tapers off like that, and over time, it kind of decays. Let's not do that. Education all the way throughout, okay? So the education box goes all the way through. The next one is work, right? And let's talk about just money, because usually you're working for money, right? If you're not working for money, you're donating your time, and you probably have money coming in from somewhere else, someone else, somebody's taking care of you. You've gotten taken care of, or you have investments taken care of you if you're doing it. But when I say work right now, I'm talking about producing money. I'm going to recommend in this one that this one can also go throughout the whole way, but it should be money making money. And by money, I mean investments. Okay. And so if you do it this way, what will it free up? It will free up time. So that box that's in the middle. So let's just kind of recap here. The education is going to go all the way through. The work part can start. Do you have to be 20, 30, 40, 50? Does it matter what age now? No. You could be a teenager. That's why I teach this to kids. I did a whole class for like a year, also encouraged by EVs, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, where I encourage the kids to get into business, you know, and they can create passive incomes for themselves already at any age. There is no limitation to this. So instead of it being this early box of when you can work, it's also pretty much any time and constantly, but it's your investments making money. And then the freedom piece, that cool box that was reserved for this right-hand side, I would say that one you can move it all the way over as well. As soon as as soon as this formula over here is met, your time is now free, and you can move that. I mean, you could, if you started really young, or your parents set you up and you got something, you could do that at any age as well. So what this means is you have your whole life to focus on your purpose and what you want to do. You have your whole life to be free. You don't have to delay it, kick it out to the right, wait till something becomes available to you in a 401k. You don't have to do that. As long as you're focused on the right metric and your mindset is there, and you're putting your investments to work for you, I'm going to be honest with you. I actually think money's better at making money than we are, no matter your skill level. And the reason why is because you can only have one job, maybe two, maybe three if you're crazy, right? But you know how many incomes you can make money make for you? Infinite. You can have 20 incomes going. Think about it like this. You're going uphill with bowling balls. How many can you carry? 3? What if I give you a 4th one? It's fallen. You can't do it. But if you're at the top of the hill, how many bowling balls at the top can you put in motion? How many? If they were just lined up there. As many as you want. You could just put them in motion. Boom, you go. Boom, you go. Initial effort, and then it goes down the slope. Boom, you're off, and you're off, and you're off, and you're off, and you're off. And then you wait. And that's why we call this grow, because those are seeds. And then what happens over time, they start producing, and you start getting a little bit here and a little bit there, and a little bit here and a little bit there, and it starts flowing in. And all of a sudden, this little metric that you've been noticing and that you've been tracking, it starts to go up. This number starts to go up. And when it exceeds this amount, you have all kinds of freedom and all kinds of options for you. And you see the world a little differently. So anyways, I want to be super respectful because we're getting near the end of the time, but for our exercise and our homework for today, it's very, very simple. I just want you guys to think about, what do I want? And I wonder if I can just write it here for you guys. What do you want your life to be like? If you were to achieve this, and it's kind of playing off the $50 million question, but really a deeper look. You don't have to answer it right now, but I've talked to a lot of people, and I know it's a tough question. It's like, Pablo, why do you keep going on that of, my life and what I want and my purpose? Guys, it's a busy week. Everybody's tired and everything, but what are we working so hard for? What are you working so hard for? What do you give? Most people, as you see again, they're going to give their life to work. What are you doing it for? What is important to you, right? So I'm going to leave that as homework, and also for you guys to create your, put a post-it of the amount. If it's private, put it just for yourself so you can look at it once in a while. But that's going to be the metric that over the next 8 weeks we're going to be working on. And then we're going to bring in experts and whatever you guys want to learn. You want to learn investing, you want to learn stocks, you want to learn how to read a chart. This is not impossible to learn. You can do it. You can learn this. You can change your life. Don't delegate that responsibility to anybody else, even if you are married. I think that it's an individual thing as well. You can work as a team, and it's twin turbos if you're both going, right? But another point I will make that is fascinating to me, I did research, and apparently investors are mostly male. And I'm not sure why that is, but it's like a 90% ratio. It's really high, guys. And in some areas like stocks and crypto, it goes even higher, like 99, 98%. It's just really ridiculous. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but hopefully with the ladies in this group, we can change a little bit of that. So anyways, that's lesson number 1, guys. I mean, I just wanted, just kind of set the stage of what we're working on here. I really appreciate your guys' time. I'll give a couple minutes. If you got to leave, no pressure. Please feel free to leave. If you want to have some questions, we can have some dialogue. I think we're going to do that at the end of any class. If you want to stick around and talk some things out, I'll give another 10 minutes to anybody that wants to stick around. Otherwise, I really appreciate you guys showing up, and I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, and really quick, I'll email you guys. We'll
That's
email you
awesome.
guys
Thank you.
some of the pictures, and I'll send the recording as well because we recorded this session. So I'll send it to all you guys' emails.
Great.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. Feel free to turn your mics on. We can just have an open conversation for those that want to stick around.
Thank you, Pop.
You're
I
welcome.
have a quick question, Pablo. I don't know if you've addressed this earlier in your talk, but how long did it take you to start seeing growth?
You mean to change this number down here?
Mm-hmm.
It could be right away, right? So for example, and we'll get into it, but so there's 3 paths, right? Real estate, business, or stocks or investments or things like that. Those are the main ways that produce this. And then under those 3, there's just it's like an endless stream of variations of that, right? So if anybody can give me an example, we can put it in one of those buckets, most likely at the top level, right? So let's say it's a dividend, like you just want to buy a stock and it's a dividend, it's immediate, right? As soon as you buy the stock, in 3 months, you will get that money, right? So that's immediate. If it's a rental property, well, you gotta learn how to buy rental properties, and it'll be immediate once you rent it out, right? Does anybody own rental properties that's on the call? I mean, as soon as you buy the house and you rent it out, you are making that money immediately. And it's the difference. Obviously, your cash flow is the difference between your payments and what you're renting it for, but that's the general concept. And then in business, that's a trickier one. You would have to be in a system of a business, not self-employed, because self-employed means you're still giving up your time. So that wouldn't count in this one, because you're still giving up time for money. So until your money is making money without you, it wouldn't necessarily count in that bucket. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. There's not a real time, like legitimate time frame. It's more like when this happens. So
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, the dividend's immediate. It's
right.
right away. Like the moment you buy it, you will get a dividend, period.
Mhm.
Of course, in a quarter, not the moment you buy it. But so it just
There
depends.
we go. That was perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
So they're just all at different timelines. But the point is to get them in motion. You have to do that upfront work on each one of them. And a lot of that is, we have a whole sessions. It's going to get pretty juicy on those areas of levels of investors. I asked it on the forum, and there's levels of investors, and the progression to that is really knowledge. It's, most people don't trade or do things because they simply don't know how,
Mhm.
or don't invest in something because they don't know. So it's learning those things, and we'll go over that. But I'm happy to see you.
Oh, yay.
Hair looks great.
Pregnancy, I guess.
Any
not
other
like crazy.
questions? I see Axel. I don't know if he's still on, but Axel asked a question about a tax advice to treat IRS to invest Bitcoin and currency. Yeah, I mean, if you sell a stock before a year, you're going to pay taxes on it, like as income. And if you hold on to one of those for over a year, then it gets treated as capital gains. You're going to pay taxes either way. So that's not a bad thing. If you're making money, you're probably going to pay taxes on it.
No, I have a question, it's Vero.
Yes.
On the left side, when you say investments, that's something you're not spending time on, right? So how about if you have a job and a paycheck, but you still have savings at the end of the month, like it exceeds your expenses?
Right. It still wouldn't count in a sense because you're giving your time to produce that money.
Right. So you want things that don't take your time.
Correct. You would have to, so you can use that money to make you more money, and then that would count.
Okay.
So it sounds like as you have a fund, like an investment fund going, and you can use that money to, what you want to do is the basic concept of give money a job.
Most people just put it in savings, like in the bank.
Yeah, but the return on that is minuscule.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much you put in there, it's just not going to return much. So
Okay.
you want to make sure that your money is working for you. And there's a whole process to it, by the way. We'll talk about debt, how much you should save. Like if you made $1, how should you split that up? Those will be future things that we'll kind of get into. But yeah, for this metric, and I kind of made it all crazy now. But let me draw it over here again so it's a little cleaner. Where did it go? It's really just, it's like that, so your expenses, and then, some people would call it cash flow, which just means how much cash is coming in every month. But remember, on its own, like you really wouldn't be able to stop it, really. That's another way to think about it. Like you couldn't, like if you bought that stock and it has a dividend, there's nothing you can do to stop that dividend from coming. It's going to come. It is coming no matter what. Like something like that.
Got it.
Any other questions?
Pablito, real quick.
Pablo.
Yes,
Oh. Okay.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Whoever's-
Who's, is that Marco? Was that you, Marco?
Yeah, I have a comment. You talk about real estate, stocks, and businesses,
Yes,
but within businesses there are different types of businesses.
yes,
I actually care about intellectual property. I believe it's a good venue to make money, and that can work for you because you only work one time and then it produces money.
yeah, absolutely. Royalties, IP. I mean,
Exactly.
there-
So
there's a lot of different ways.
would you cover anything when it comes to intellectual property within your course in the future? I would love to hear your ideas.
I'm not an expert in that, so I am not going to cover that. So in these 8 weeks, we're going to kind of go over the basics of a lot of different things, but then we're going to split off in different things. And, maybe that's a subject that we get someone that's an expert on, right? So
Okay.
I'm not, like on the later sessions, it's not just going to be me, right? I'm not an expert in all of these things. I have my strengths in some of them that are natural to me. And I think that's the point of this, is for you to figure out, like, and that's the beauty. I love that you mentioned this, because there's only 3 ways, like buckets, but there's thousands of different ways that you can split those buckets up. And I bet you there's one that really fits with your vibe, with your personality, with the way you like to be. And so it's good to find something that kind of works with your lifestyle. But the principle of having to invest and have it make a return it's
Key.
always going to be the same. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Yeah. Axel, were you asking a question, Axel?
Give me 1 second. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Well, thank you for the explanation. You being showing to everyone as far as your knowledge. I'm pretty sure you have some certain experience in regards this subject. I can say, like, what's the minimum, what's the max, as far as the word investment. But I want to emphasize, because you're talking about the fear and the greed.
Yeah.
But through all the time, I mean, I believe the investments and expenses, but in the end, most likely what we're looking for, it's security in our lives.
Yeah.
Right. And I would like to for you expanding a little bit about that, because I was reading, kind of like educating myself in regards the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. And one of the things that I know you highlight, one of the articles, several banks and stuff like that, I have investments in Schwab. And one of the things that I know, one of the persons says is that if you not really know what you're doing, it can create a big loss.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So most likely we're beginners, we're babies on this, so we're learning, and I really appreciate that. And I threw the question. There's a lot of things in my head, but I threw the question in regards the IRS. The IRS already threat that crypto and also the Bitcoin, because it looks like not illicit, but not illegal. But at the same time, it's as far as, what's the percentage exactly that they take, away from you, or they're planning to take away from you, because it works a little bit different than the actual investments, right?
Yeah, it's so with there's a couple of things you mentioned, so I'll answer them. In terms of the taxes on crypto, it's changing, right? They're figuring this out. It's a new asset class, but right now it's treated as income. So if you buy at one point and you sell it, that difference, you're going to get taxed on that as if you made that as income. So that's going to get taxed every single time. And then if you hold it for a year and then you sell it, it'll get capital gains tax, which is something around 15%, 20%, somewhere on there. So, you know, hopefully Biden's plan doesn't go through because that's ridiculous for it to go to 40%. That's ridiculous, but that's another subject. But
So there's no
capital gain-
difference.
Yeah, capital gains tax would be what you would want. But with crypto, because it's so volatile, most people can't hold it for a year unless you got in really early. So it's just counted. But to answer your question, stocks aren't treated any differently. So, you know, when you read articles and everything, and we'll get into that in the mindset of an investor, it's highly manipulated, guys. The markets are highly manipulated to create fear and greed. And they create fear when they want you to sell at a low price, and they create greed when they want you to buy at a high price. So the average investor buys high and sells low. And that sounds like a terrible strategy. You'd be like, why would anybody do that? Well, the prices are super high right now on real estate, right? But everybody's buying. Like, there's nobody selling. There's very few people selling, but tons of people want to overpay for a property. Wonderful. Buy high. And then later, when it drops, they're going to sell it low. And it's rinse and repeat. And so we'll get into the mindset of that. But investing is a game. It is absolutely a game. And I would recommend, if you're going to play any game, to learn the rules. Think of a game and go play that game, even if it's a simple game, like Monopoly or something like that, and you don't know how to play, you're not going to win. You are not going to win a game that you do not understand the rules. So if you don't know the rules, I would not put any money in that game. And that's what the purpose of this class is, to teach you the fundamentals so that you know the basic rules on how to play these games. But there are rules, trust me, there are 1000% rules, and it's not necessarily an easy game. There are ways to make it easy, but there are, you know, but the returns are also lower because you're making it easy. Like, you could just buy an asset like a really good company with a dividend. Just buy Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, Verizon, just buy it forever, every week. Just keep buying it. Let's talk in 10 years and your money has multiplied, I promise you. That's an easy way. You don't even have to think about it or look at it. But you're gonna get, you know, 4 or 5% compounding, which is not bad, by the way. But that's the return you'll expect from that kind of investment. So hopefully it answers your question, Axel. But though the real key here is to learn the rules of the game and then see if you want to still play it.
Right. The reason I throw the question is because it's kind of like a fashionista type of thing, you know, the subject, you know, the Bitcoin, you know, through Europe, here, it's coming really hard. So we don't want to fantasize, you know, like, okay, we're going to put a penny in, tomorrow I'm going to have, you know, $1,000 already there, you know? So, but you basically nail it, mentioning, you know, the rules, to know the rules, to know the game. Because we're gonna be the players and we're just gonna go into the field and start like playing. And where's the ball? You know what I mean? Where's the ball?
Right.
What should I follow? So
and Axel, the other thing is market cycles. So there's cycles to the market, and the cycles to the market matter a lot as well. Where are you in the market cycle? So for example, buying Bitcoin at, you know, even now with the massive drop we had, it's like what, 39,000, 38,000, 40,000, somewhere around there. But a year ago, when the Corona crashed, it was 3,000, and there was a lot of fear. And so there's a lot of fear in the market, and everything crashed, and that seems to put people off of it. But it's the exact opposite. That's when you should have gone in and bought. You buy fear and you sell greed. So when it's fearful is when you want to buy. It's actually another quote from Buffett. You have to be greedy when others are fearful. And then when everybody's greedy, you got to back off and be fearful, right? So it's you're operating in the opposite emotion. So those market crashes, even though they sound crazy, is the best opportunity to build wealth. Because you would think about it. When was the best time to buy a property? Right now or in 2008 when it crashed?
there's no specific time.
No. I mean, between now or 2008, when the houses crashed, we had a housing crisis. Which would have been better to buy a house in?
I don't know. Probably Ivan can answer that question.
Ivan, the realtor. You're muted.
2008.
2008, because the value of that house, I don't know if that's drawing. Yeah, the value of the house in 2008 was like, let's say 700,000, okay?
Mhm.
And then that same house right now, 2021, is selling for 1.5 million. Am I right, Ivan?
Yeah. Sorry,
When would be the better time to buy the house? But what happened? Why did this house get to 700,000? Because the market went down and it created fear. And that is the best time to buy. But there's not a lot of buyers at that time, right, Ivan? There's mostly sellers.
Right.
But who's buying? Investors.
Investors are.
Right, which is what you guys are all going to be. So you got to think a little differently now. You're going to think a little differently. You don't want to buy high and sell low. You want to buy low and sell high. So this guy that bought this house, he's probably the one selling it right now for 1.5. Even though it's going to appraise at 1.1, he doesn't care. He's going to sell it for 1.5. So it's just a completely different way of thinking.
Gotcha.
I have a question.
Sylvia.
Okay, so my question is, maybe it's a three-part question.
Okay,
One, maybe I
let's do
missed
it.
two. One, how long have you been doing this? Two, have you ever gotten into trouble, like investing too much and then you were panicking and then you're like, oh my gosh, my life is over? Three,
I love these questions.
the third one was, how much wiggle room is there for a beginner who's trying to play the game and not get burned? So that's my question.
Okay. Now I have a terrible memory, Sylvia, so you're gonna have to help me here. Okay. Number one was, I forgot.
How
number
long?
one.
How long have you been doing
Oh,
this?
how long I've been doing it? Okay. So I've loved stocks. So I love stocks personally. I am a stock guy. I love the market. And then I got introduced to crypto and that was like heroin. You know, it was like, it's like stocks going 24/7, right? So I love analysis. So I started investing in stocks when I was like 15 or 16 years old because I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that book changed my life. And I was like, I'm gonna, and it got me all going. And I bought Amazon and all these other companies and Cisco at tiny little amounts, right? And I had
Really? I'm
tons-
reading that book right now. Haha.
It's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. And we're gonna go over some of the concepts on it. But so I invested all those stocks, but when the 2000 crash happened, guess what I did? The 2000 tech stock, I sold. I had weak hands and I sold it at the bottom because I didn't know what I was doing. If I would have held on to that stock, I don't even like to think about what it's worth. To give you guys an idea, Amazon cost $3 at that time. Amazon right now, what is Amazon right now? Micah, do you know? I don't know an Amazon, but I think it's like 4,000.
Damn.
Or 3,000. Yeah, it's probably like 3,000 or 4,000. Amazon stock is 3,200.
Yeah, that was one I was afraid to buy.
Whoa.
But can I show you guys here? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
So in the 90s, when I was 15 years old, it was $3.69. So if you dropped in $100, you'd have, or $300, you'd have hundreds of shares of Amazon, and they're now worth $3,000 each. You'd be millionaire beyond your dreams just with one move. So I had a lot of that, and I sold because of a crash. Can you even see the crash on this timeline? You can't even, it's so insignificant, you can't even see
It
it.
doesn't even register on there.
No, which is why you don't sell these, you don't get all emotional about it, So that was question number one. I started at that age, but because of, I shared with you guys, because of my fear and because I wanted security, I kept working and went the working route, especially since I didn't have any more stock. And I was like, that's probably not the game for me. I kind of dropped out for a second, but I've always loved that. And I studied business and all this other stuff. But I would say maybe like the last 4 years or 5, I started up again. And it wasn't until I had more capital to play with. I was getting great returns, but I was doing it with tiny amounts. And I learned some other lessons, but once I got more capital because of the business and other stuff's going well, I was able to start multiplying that money, you know. The next question, have I ever experienced something that I was like, man, right? Is that what you asked? Like, have I?
Yeah. It kind of sounds like you experienced that at the beginning, though.
You're always
that you were
gonna
panicking and scared.
And you always experience that. So that's just a natural, remember the market will make you feel fear or greed. I mean, it's just yesterday the market collapsed on crypto and there's a lot of fear in the market. In fact, you can actually Google it. CNN, let's do like fear and greed index. And you can see that there's a fear and index for cryptocurrency. It is at extreme fear. Can you guys see this? The market right now, the sentiment is extreme fear, and last month it was greed, and it's been dropping. And with fear, the price drops, which means it becomes a buying opportunity. And in greed, that's a selling opportunity. You can actually study this and see that greed and fear it kind of stays mostly in greed, but the times that it drops is when it shakes you out. And that's what they want you to do. They want to shake you out. So these are the two extremes of the market, and it's not just crypto. The regular market has a sentiment as well of greed and fear. You can look it up as well. It's this one, and the stock market is currently in fear, not extreme fear like crypto, but it's in fear right now as well. And then your third question.
How much wiggle room is there for a beginner? But it sounds like you have to invest time to study, to move things around, to have fear, to relax, to buy, to sell, and all that stuff. Like, is this like a part-time thing? Like, how many hours should I be expecting to put in this weekly?
That's a very personal question on how much you enjoy it and what you want to do, right? But there's always going to be an upwards investment of time. But just know that it goes down again. And there are ways that we're gonna do, because there's a lot of people like you, Sylvia, that you don't want to be a full-time investor. Like a very good strategy could be you have your job. I think Veronica mentioned she had an excess amount of money, let's just say. You can grab that money and just buy a dividend stock, or put it in some account that returns a yield, which is like a percentage back. And that'll multiply much faster than your bank. You could just do that and just keep your job. And then maybe after a while you save up enough and you're like, now I'm gonna buy a property and I'm gonna rent it out. And now you're making, another $1,000 from that after you pay your mortgage. And then that property goes up in value and you take out the equity and do it again. And you can just create a bunch of different income sources. So the point is to grow this stat though here, the one that we've been highlighting, Sylvia, because if you ever want to be free, you're going to need this to be true.